the security token is provided. That gets entered over here. I'm not going to change it because I don't want to mess anything up. But a security token is entered, and that's how it authenticates and says, okay, in this case, my buddy Vince, this is his account. Vince is authorized. He can go in here and he can make this stuff work.
Okay.
Now the next thing we do, and a lot of these things are similar, but I'm going to actually close a couple of them up, and I'm going to, so it's not too much to look at, because there's a lot going on here.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a couple of different ways to map. So there's contact field mapping, and then there's account level field mapping. And what we consider an account is what you would consider an account would be, you know, a company name, things like that, where a contact level is going to be things like first name, last name, and those things you'd expect.
Right.
So if I open this up, we give people the option. And why we say this is native is I'm not developing anything. I'm just picking and choosing from a drop-down list. So the first thing that someone would do is they would decide how are they going to link someone from us and place them into the proper record inside of Salesforce. And the first one everyone uses is our email, our e-reg field. It's collected during the registration process, maps over to the Salesforce contact link field, which is called email, right? So this drop-down list is populated. So once Vince put in his security token and his password and so forth, it said, okay, you're the right person, then we automatically brought back all of the possible contents.
Right.
So these are all Salesforce fields, okay?
Okay.
Over here is what's in etouches in the e-reg side, and so you can see they look different. They're not the same, obviously, but we know that email over here matches email address in e-reg. And you can add more IDs. Some people choose to use a, they might want to use if you have some sort of ID number. I don't think I have one in here for you for our account, but there's some sort of ID number. You could put that in there as well. So it could be email address and last name, email address and member ID. It could be all kinds of things like that.
Okay.
Okay. Make sense so far? Any questions on that?
So what you're using the backend for this is just field mapping?
Yep, that's all this is, yeah.
Okay. So it's just using the API.
Yeah, the benefit of this is that, so, you know, you don't have to have a developer on either side, right, or even an integration person come and get involved in this, right? So people with the proper access to etouches and proper access into Salesforce, they can do this themselves, right? And in fact, we give them an ability to actually use the Salesforce or the sandbox environment of Salesforce, so they don't have to worry about screwing up the production data, right? They can even do that if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So you'll see that, and this is intentionally goofy, and what I mean by goofy is that enter your shoe size or your pet's name, that kind of stuff. It's basically saying that when there is, you know, and when you build out a registration form, you have the ability to create all kinds of different registration fields that are important to the event management side of things. In this case, maybe dog's name and shoe size are important. You know, we do business with New Balance. Shoe size happens to be an important thing, right? So the benefit there is that they're able to do this, and then if there's an appropriate or matching field inside the Salesforce, again, they can just go to this drop-down list and they can figure out which one it is, right? And if it doesn't exist, they just leave it as blank.
Okay. And this data that's on the e-reg side, that's on its own platform. Like that's on y'all's platform for just data about the events, right? And it's so this specific tool would be used to sync the event data into Salesforce, correct? Right.
And not only this is the one single direction from us to back to Salesforce at this point. There's another way around. It goes the other way. I'll show you that in a second. So what people use this for is they go to a public link or a website and they want to register for an event, and the host company wants that information collected inside of the CRM, Salesforce. That's what this is great for, because they don't have to worry about downloading spreadsheets or integrating with anything else. Once someone registers, this information, when properly mapped, will go to the appropriate places inside Salesforce, and so they can go into Salesforce and manage their entire business. So, for example, if Tara registered for a meeting, I'm going to want to do other things with Tara besides worry about her registration. I may want to call her directly, so there's some things that have nothing to do with event management. So by getting this information into Salesforce, those people can do whatever they need to do to get that job done.
Right. Okay.
And then there's different types of different types of categories and default campaigns. So we'll talk about that in a second. But you know, we will put someone into a default campaign in Salesforce unless there's one specifically set up for this, and we can map to that campaign if we needed to.
Okay.
So let me close all this nonsense up. Go to the next one. The next one's kind of the same way, although since we've already validated people by their email address or any other ID, this pretty much looks the same. It's the same types of questions. In this case, I might want to map something different, like this accounting code might also go someplace else, like to the account number. There's other things like you can do with it. And again, this is all variable. All these things in these labels are based upon what was created in the event side.
Right.
So it looks kind of the same.
Okay.
So then where it gets really interesting, we come down here a little bit. Come down here and click on General Settings. There's some other things that we can do. So now that we've figured out who these people are and what we're going to do with them, the user can determine what do they want to do with them by event. In this particular event, I may want them to create brand new records in Salesforce, right? And if we choose to do that, where do we want to put it? Do we want to also create an account at the same time? You know, not use an account. Do we want to always use them? Some people have a Salesforce account that's like a holding account for all the contacts until they figure out where they're supposed to go.
Right.
The other thing we can do is we can match against a company name in eReg. So if someone types in Procter & Gamble, and Procter & Gamble happens to be in Salesforce as an account, we can map to that, right? And if it doesn't match, then we can put it into a default. So you kind of figure we have different ways to do that.
Yeah. And when the option is do not use an account, what happens?
All it does is put the contact in. It doesn't put any account information. It doesn't map to anything. It'll map to a contact level, but it won't map to an account level. It won't do anything with it.
Okay.
Most people don't leave that unchecked. They'll check it and they'll say, we need to do something with it. Because I use Procter & Gamble as a very specific example because some people do type in P&G, right? Mm. We all know they're kind of the same thing, but systems don't know that. Okay. So at least get them somewhere so that someone can manage it as an unresolved conflict or whatever they need to do and clean up to get it into the right spot.
Okay.
Yep. Now the next thing we can do is we can automatically modify the records, right? So now that we've figured out if we're going to map them to an account or not, what are we going to do with it? So a couple of things we can do. We can allow modifications to the records that were not created by etouches. What this means is if it came to us first from Salesforce as a list of some sort, are we allowed to modify those or not, right? Kind of preservation integrity of data. Or we can go ahead and modify them, you know, regardless of what happened most recently, but there's a note that we can put in. So what do we want to do? Not just, you know, make a change, like update someone's phone number or email address, whatever it might be, although email address is not a good idea, since we key on that. Favorite color, let's say, or dog's name. We also will put a note in the record that says, hey, etouches changed this record on such and such a date and time. So it's kind of like an audit trail that's buried into the comment field of the record of the person.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So the last couple of things here have to do with what do we do with it in terms of better classification. So, you know, is it a contact or, I mean, is it just a plain old contact or does it go someplace like an actual lead that someone needs to follow up on? And you'll see here these labels have to do with what we call, these are called attendee categories. So in the registration world, an attendee category or a participant type or whatever you want to call it, those are used to manage the experience of the person registering for an event. So for example, a certain type of salesperson or a vendor or an attendee or a VIP or a guest may have a different experience based upon who they are. Different questions, different hotel rooms available to them. Do they have to do this thing or not the other thing? A lot of that experience is controlled, but we can take that experience designation or categorization over into Salesforce and say, this event exhibitor, you know, what do we want to do with them? Are they going to be a contact and get moved over to a lead, or are they a lead first, then become a contact? Is it a contact only or a lead only? Now, you don't have to use this. This doesn't have to be used, so people can uncheck it and it kind of goes away, right? You don't see it anymore.
Right.
But that's an important thing where people, like memberships, do I want to follow up with them and try and sell them something else, right? Or additional merchandise or whatever you want to sell them. Okay?
Very cool. Okay.
All right, and then there's some other things around, you know, you need to specify at least one record. It should be a unique record. So this is making sure, again, that we add the right person. And then there's some other mapping around the lead. So if they don't go in as a contact, you decide to go, they have to go as a lead first. because some companies do that. They don't want to clog up their contact database with a bunch of people that aren't going to do any good for them. They'll show up as a lead first, and if that lead becomes a real vetted lead, then perhaps it becomes a contact. But if not, in Salesforce, you can say get rid of them, right, or do something else with them. They don't need to be an official contact.
Right. Okay.
Okay, that's a lot there. And then the last thing here, there's something called synchronization. So we can synchronize that category, as I mentioned, in sessions and options with Salesforce products. So if there's an appropriate product, we can do that. So here's further actions. So there's some product mapping. We also do multi-currency. But then there's some other further actions about that really appear at an opportunity. So, we talked about contacts and leads and then accounts and campaigns, but there's also opportunities. So some customers may say that this event ABC, that's going to happen in St. Louis on June 14th, we're going to call that an opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. And that opportunity we can map. So they may create an opportunity first in Salesforce, and we'll say let's map to that opportunity name so that all this event-related information not only is referenced at the category or the contact level, but it's also in the opportunity level. So people can do lots of interesting reporting around that to say that people that have attended, what are they, right? Is it meaning they paid to show up to the event. They paid a registration fee to go to the event. They attended it. That's a closed one. They paid. They showed up. I can show it as revenue. That's closed one as a opportunity, closing out that opportunity. Okay. Canceled. It's a closed opportunity, but it's lost because they canceled and get their money back. So that's kind of what that, and that's all configurable, obviously by the. Okay. And then here's products. Okay. Whatever products are set up. And I mean, I'm going to kind of go through this at a pace, so if there's any questions, please stop me. The products could be something associated to that opportunity. So we use Salesforce, right? So we have an opportunity, and it's what did we sell them, right? Right. Same idea. So if I came in as an event exhibitor and I registered for that and equaling opportunity, that exhibitor may have bought booth space, they may have bought additional chairs and pipe and drape and electrical drops and stuff like that. Whereas someone who's a gold sponsor, they may have decided to buy, I'm going to pay for the gold sponsorship at the event, which gets their name in lights and, whatever, right? So if those products are set up, we can map those not just to the opportunity, but also into the products. Okay. And then sessions. That's at the top level. Sessions are things that people, obviously there's a breakout session. 11 to noon, there's a breakout session. You can map to that, and it's really useful if those sessions have an upcharge to them. So the overall event might be $200, but if you want to go to the special VIP session, it's an extra $50, right? They pay the $50 through etouches, and we can map them over and say, hey, they went to the mobile interactive session with an extra $50.
Okay, so these are all mapping as products. There aren't any custom objects for sessions options. Like, how do you categorize them within Salesforce so that the user knows it's a session versus a ticket or an option?
Well, that's the last part there. We see options. That options is actually a part where you would see as could be a ticket, right? We see shopping, dinner option 2, things like that. We show them as options on our screens because through the user experience, they have options they can pick, and if they say yes to it, and it's $50, it adds $50 to the bill, and they pay the bill, and it comes back across like that. Right. But I mean, etouches does not. We do not currently support custom objects.
Okay. Okay.
That has to be done within Salesforce. There's a lot of consultants out there that know how to do this. I think it's called an Ajax property, or I think that's what it's called. There's ways to do that where you can take this information and put it to a custom object inside Salesforce.
Okay, so if someone wanted to do that, they could set it up that way, but right now it just maps to standard objects.
Right, and there's just so many, because this is native and we're trying to make it as easy as possible for people to use this. Right. As the guy outside cuts the grass across the street, can you hear that? I feel like I had to knock it off. He needs to cut his grass, it's about 3 feet long. Anyway. The idea is that there's so many different ways to do custom objects. It'd be very difficult for us to keep this as an economical way to integrate with Salesforce. Right. Because you'd step out of the native environment where I'm kind of pointing and clicking and doing drop downs and field mapping. Right. Getting developers involved.
Okay. My only, I guess back to the question I had, I might have not asked it very clearly, but could you scroll up just a tiny little bit on the screen? So under this this last section, the product mapping, there's like the different categories, and then there's the sessions. Like, I guess my point is, when those records are synced to Salesforce, it'll just show up as event staff, and then the price, and then the next one might be morning breakout one and the price. Like, do you have a way to categorize those by, say, a custom field, not a custom object, but a custom field on maybe the product object that would specify which categories those would be? And just so from the Salesforce side, it's a little more clear that those are related to, different types of event purchases, by category. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what this will do, there's no products selected intentionally, so we don't have any products in there. I could probably search for one. Yeah, there isn't any.
Okay.
What we would do, what a lot of people do, is the products that are set up inside. Would you stop to go away? What's that thing on my screen? Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
So these products are generally defined and known to the person who's actually setting this up. So we actually go through this with them. So when they say event exhibitor on our side, they already know what that is on their side. So they don't always need, because they kind of know what it is.
Okay.
And many times they actually match. They'll match exactly. They'll actually have the same phrasing on both sides.
Okay. That makes more sense. Okay. I was thinking, maybe the product would be, okay. I guess I was thinking all those categories would be under like one product or.
But they should be individual. They're actually individual products. I mean, they could put them all to the same product if they wanted to. We have seen people do that. They'll put because exhibitor and event speaker may be the same product on their end. They don't have to. The best practice is actually have these individually as individual products.
Okay, that'd be easier. Okay, thank you for confirming.
Yeah, that's actually the better way to do that. Now, what we also do at an event level, so now this is pretty much it in terms of how we make this work. The other part of this, if I go, I don't know if I have time. Let me take a look. I think we do. So we have this thing called preloaded data. Okay.
Hey, real quick, guys. Mike or Joe, do you guys have a hard stop by chance?
Well, I got a little extra time.
I don't have a hard stop, no.
Okay, just want to confirm. I'm good on my end too.
Are you guys okay?
Yeah.
Good call on that though.
Yeah. So the other way around is, so now let's talk, and you can use these in combination, but they don't have to be the same. The other thing you can do is you can actually preload information from Salesforce into the registration process. Kind of does it the same way. So the first thing I showed you was from us to Salesforce. Mm-hmm. Now we're talking about coming from Salesforce and coming into etouches to populate registration forms.
Okay.
If I click on that, it's the same screens basically. You gotta go back to the exact same thing, right? But in other words, you don't have to do this. So I can write from Salesforce, but I can get the invitation list from some other place. A lot of people will do that. They will have lists from some other product, unfortunately, not Salesforce, or they'll have it from another registration site that we've done, or they will have it from our contacts database. So people can preload information from our contacts database here, if I click on this, and then once someone registers and completes that registration, the data then goes into Salesforce as an updated record.
Okay. So when you click Manage Salesforce Integration, that takes you to that other tab, but that just opens up the kind of bridge between this and Salesforce, correct? And pulls data in from Salesforce, and then when you save the syncing page, that pushes it back to Salesforce?
Right.
Okay.
And again, you don't have to use them together at the same time. And this is event by event, by the way. Some events, they want to pull it from Salesforce and put it back to Salesforce. Sometimes they want to take it from some other list that's like for non-customer lists that they're trying to generate audience, and they don't want to clog up Salesforce with much information they don't need, so they'll have some of those sort of marketing lists, and those updates will go back into Salesforce as leads. There's lots of different combinations that people can use for this. And it's event by event. Every event could be different.
Okay. So if they just go to that integrations page that we just reviewed, instead of clicking this Manage Salesforce Integration button to get there, what's the difference?
That page is exactly the same.
Okay.
This Salesforce integration, that's goes to the exact same page.
Okay, okay. So it's just, this is the option, like this page right here, which our preloaded data come from. This just allows you to either use Salesforce or something else, but you need to choose some option here.
All right. So I could change it to this, right? I'll say I'm going to get my contact info. I'm going to preload from my contacts database inside of etouches.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to write the updates into Salesforce. I just go over here and do that.
Okay, that was my question. Okay, thank you.
We actually have a map of this we can send you. There's actually a flow chart that shows this.
Okay.
With all kinds of documentation you can read when you're tired or can't sleep.
Yeah, it's part of the documentation that I sent you over, Emily.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you'll have that. Sure.
I remember that now. Yep. Okay. Those flow charts. You guys use the event object that Salesforce has at all?
No, we do not. Not to say we shouldn't.
Okay. It's a little it's simplified compared to these standard objects that you guys are using now, but you guys should, I don't know, just potentially check it out. Even just make it an addition. Basically, you can add it to a lead or a contact. It just creates an event record, and it has an account associated with it, a who, an ID, an owner ID, that kind of thing. So I don't know, it might be something just to think about since you guys are event-based. You know, some previous Salesforce users might think that you're doing something with that.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I mean, I talk to the CTO twice a day, so I'll bring it up to him.
Perfect.
See what he thinks about that. I think there might be an extra way to do that. The other thing I wanted to show you real quick is if on the attendee level. So we have all these reports about the attendees, and inside the event-related reporting. And so one of the things that we have here is if I go to Vince, if I click on his confirmation number, I get a window that pops up, and it's got all kinds of stuff about what he registered for, how much he's paid, all that kind of stuff. But then we come down a little bit further into the middle, and it'll actually show what's happened, right? So this one has not been synchronized intentionally because it's a demo account. But if you synchronize, there's it shows an update, so we can see from our end if it was successful or not. So if it didn't go through, we would be able to see it on the screen that says, hey, it didn't go through all the way.
Okay.
And the other thing we can do is the other reason why we have these screens like this is in the event management world, as much as we like to say we're a technology, people still call. And so they'll call the meeting planner, right? And they'll say, blah, 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 whatever they want to say. The meeting planner does not have to go to that person's registration and open it up and resynchronize. They can just simply go in here and say, whatever they want to say about that person, and it'll put it to the notes inside Salesforce, so that if someone goes in Salesforce and pulls up the report about this contact and looks at Vince, they can say, oh, Vince contact Mike, the meeting planner, on the 25th of April, right? So you can kind of add some notes without having to go through a full synchronization process.
Okay, got it. That makes sense.
Yeah, because me as a meeting planner, why would I have access to your Salesforce? I wouldn't have access to that. I'm just managing the event. I don't even work for you guys, right? So there's no reason for me to have access to Salesforce, but at least I can get the information into Salesforce via the integration.
Yeah. Okay. And who is anyone actually logging in from the Salesforce side, and what is, who is that user? Like, I guess all the UI so far is just within etouches, but would there be a case to log in just from Salesforce to view this information?
Salesforce, almost like a single sign-on into event management into etouches.
Yeah, or logging in just to see the Salesforce UI, like from, I get the syncing and the pulling data, but would there ever be a use case just to view it within Salesforce, or no?
Not generally, but that doesn't mean there shouldn't be or couldn't be.
Right. Managing
the event from within Salesforce as a object itself, or as a widget of some sort, to manage events from inside the Salesforce environment, but have these types of meeting planning screens available. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I just asking. I don't know if that would make the most sense, but and if so, if changes are made on the Salesforce side, I know there's the syncing here that syncs it into Salesforce, but is there like a way to pull that information back into this to update it based on what changes were made on the Salesforce side? Or is that
we do that.
Was that the
Yeah,
button?
so that's this. If I go back over to this button, where's the button? Yeah, let's go over here. So what happens over here in this, if I have this set to preload, and again, we're matching against a piece of data, that data being email. So if this is turned on and enabled and saved, I'd save and stay if I do that, when someone registers, the first page will ask them for their email address so we can figure out who they are. We're then going to go out and we're going to go to Salesforce and grab all the most updated information and populate those reg forms with whatever was in Salesforce.
Okay.
So through that trigger, it will automatically go out and get that person and pre-fill the relevant fields on the registration form with what's updated or the latest and greatest in Salesforce.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you. Got it. Okay. Are there any other screens you would like to share that have anything to do with the integration?
No, it's all pretty straightforward stuff. Do you have anything you wanted me to show, Tara?
No, I think this is pretty much where we set everything up for the integration.
Okay. Yeah, this looks good.
Hey, Mike, it's Rob. First of all, nice to meet you. I don't think we actually even said hi yet, but I was wanting to ask. I mean, what's on the roadmap for you guys? I'm sure, like you said, you talk to the CTO twice a week, twice a day, whatever it was you said. And I guess what's next year? I mean, it sounds like Salesforce is definitely on the roadmap, but I'd love to just hear it from you. And what do you think can make this application maybe a little bit better?
I mean, overall, or just it's related integrations? There's two different answers.
Either or, whatever's I guess short term, long term, whatever you think is going to be most
related to Salesforce,
sure.
Related to our integration.
Well, there's some interesting things out there from the front end. How do we work with other types of mailing lists? Like the other things that are sitting out there. There's Silverpop, Marketo, all these other things out there that are meant for marketing. So how do we better integrate with those things to get that, it's all around personalization. It's a big deal. Personalization is a big deal on everything that everybody does, right? When you log in, it should know who you are, right? Mm-hmm. So from the registration side of things, you can certainly import data all day long, and when I go to the registration site, it's going to know my address and things like that. But, it's better if we have integrations from not just Salesforce, but other things as well. There is talk about doing things with custom objects in Salesforce. It's just we don't know how we're going to do that without getting a developer involved each time, because it's fallen on deaf ears that this comes up all the time. Actually, it does come up all the time. Custom objects. Overall, for just etouches, there's a number of products at the top or modules that we have. And as we build these out, we're actually building in more functionality based upon user feedback. So, for example, we have something called e-seating, right? People like the e-seating. E-booth is a way that people can an exhibitor can go online and through the registration process and buy booth space at an event, right? Okay. There's some enhancements we're doing around that. The bigger enhancements have to do with strategic meetings management, where the budgeting controls and approvals, right? Pre-event approvals for can you even have this meeting? Those kinds of things are coming into play. And then the last two things are really about our venue sourcing, really taking that to the next level. There's some really interesting things in venue sourcing that no one else does around estimating costs. Right. And then mobile, everyone has a mobile device, and in fact, I got two sitting in front of me, like most people do, right? So how do we take a lot of these things and extend them into a mobile environment, not just for the attendees, but also how do planners go in and look at stuff on a mobile device as well? So there's thoughts around that. And Tara, if you have anything else you want to share.
I can look into seeing if there's anything down for like up to Q3 for the roadmap as far as the integration is concerned. That's something I can definitely look at. I don't recall anything off the top of my head, specific specs or anything like that, but I can definitely look at that. And also we're always taking client feedback about what they need as far as the integration is concerned. So great. But if you guys have any thoughts from what you've seen today, as well as other clients, any other clients that you've seen with similar setups, we're obviously open to that.
Right.
Open to exploring that.
Right. And just to clarify, I know, Mike, you said earlier that you want to keep it native, so you don't want to use a custom object, but you can build a custom object just by point and clicking. You don't have to have any custom code. It is basically just within the Salesforce database right away. Like it doesn't require any weird configuration, or you don't have to adjust it for each customer. You can include a custom object in this package, and every customer could use it, and there won't require any weird data loading or anything because there is no code involved. It's native still as a custom object, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So don't associate, just don't be deterred by custom objects just because they aren't standard Salesforce objects. They're still in the same data structure and the same data model as the standard objects. They're just, maybe more relatable and make a little more sense to users because of their name and functionality. That would make more sense to your app than, for example, using the opportunity for events is kind of like it works, but it's a little maybe confusing to someone who's...
we've heard that before.
Yeah,
actually,
so if you guys have an event object, it's still super native and easy to use and works the exact same way as the opportunity. It would just be titled something different. You could create some more custom fields that make more sense, and it would be more easier to understand from the user side. So
sure.
that's just...
Sure. Yeah.
I guess I'm just wondering then what the hesitation has been then in the past to use the custom object. So Mike, I don't know if you know anything
Sure,
about that.
I can tell you why. Because these things point specifically to name. These are named.
Right.
The way it was built, these are named. So this is specifically looking for contact. This is specifically looking for account. Opportunity specifically looking for opportunity. Even though it uses the same data structure, and I'll bring it up with Shane. I don't know that we, I don't think we don't. It's not that we don't want to do it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, instead of opportunity, you could just change that and to look for that custom object within the Salesforce package of your app. So it would work
Right.
essentially the same way as long as the customer is using your app.
Right. Exactly. It's almost like the same way if you think about how we map. Think of a drop down that says to where do you want to map this to? You pick out from the drop down, right?
Right.
And then go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, just chime in, like Emily said, there's so much more you can take advantage of. Like your integration's already so good that, being able to take advantage of the custom object, being able to take advantage of maybe a better integration or more in-depth integration with the campaign functionality within Salesforce, right? Being able to give marketing and sales a little more visibility from the etouches standpoint, right? As opposed to having one admin or someone just inputting the data into etouches, giving that visibility back to the sales team. There's a lot of different things we can do, right? The mobile capabilities, right? Being able to build that application entirely on the Force.com platform. So when you're in the event or post-event, whatever it may be, there's a lot of things that you guys can take advantage of. And, aside from the marketing, tools and resources that may be appealing to, Tara and Kathleen, from a technology standpoint with you and yourself and the CTO, as you guys begin to construct this roadmap or, add things to the roadmap, those are things that come with the partnership as well, right? We're not just here for the P&R. We're not just here to give you guys, a stage at Dreamforce, but I think it comes down to the foundation of the partnership, and that's the technology. As we improve the technology, we want to make sure that you guys have access to that as well, right? So you're not just having to rely on yourself to improve and innovate, but allow us to kind of give you some innovation as well so you can enhance the product on your end.
Absolutely, love it. So I guess our next step, Tara, is we got to get Shane. I can set up a talk. I can talk to him and see, how we get this thing rolling, because I think that, we should take advantages because there's lots of opportunity out there for everybody, right?
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And I recorded this meeting, so I can send the recording to everyone as well as Shane here to see what we can do for next steps.
Great.
Shane is our CTO, so I apologize for that.
No, that's fine. I know we spoke about this over email, but I would love to. I don't know if you or anyone from your team might be either in DC or Toronto next week.
For the Salesforce World Tour event?
Yeah.
I will be at the New York one as a sponsor, so, but I don't think anyone's going to be at the. Well, actually, let me ask if one of my colleagues, Julie, is going to be at DC, and then let me ask Quentin if he'll be at Toronto, just walking around, but like we'll actually be sponsors for the New York one. So
that's good to know because my manager, I manage Eastern Canada and New England, and he manages all of the East Coast, and so my colleague and him are going to be at the New York World Tour. So
and I will be too.
Oh, Emily's going to New York as well. I did not know that. Okay, so that's great. You guys could all, at least, I mean, it's always great to put a face to the name, right, and at least have a conversation in person. I know Emily is obviously up for it, and I'm sure my manager will be as well. So let me know. We can get that set up for New York.
Yeah, it'd be great to put it on the calendar, get some time to set aside to meet.
For sure.
In regards to next steps, I mean, what's the feedback from Kathleen, I guess, the CEO, in regards to where you guys want to, I guess, how you guys want to proceed, and what the timeline looks like on your end?
So what I was doing with the development and Kathleen this past week and a half or so is that I wanted to gather a list of everyone that's in the system, and I've done that. And I need to see also who has paid like a recurring fee and who has only paid a one-time fee, who maybe didn't pay for the integration. And then I also need to, my next step after that is to figure out what's actually in the pipeline for everyone, because obviously our model has changed as well. Like we're focused on enterprise for this. We've been focusing on enterprise the last 2 years, so everyone now needs the Salesforce integration. So if we don't have, call it, if we have like 25% of our clients use the integration, it probably will grow to maybe 50% over the next like 24 months or so. So I just need to take a look at that and see what everyone has in, coming down the path, and then we will be able to have the next conversation with Kathleen and, I mean, potentially Ani as well, who's our CEO.
Great.
Yeah, I just didn't know. Sorry if you have anything else, but I just want to ask. I just didn't know since our last conversation how things have progressed, and I just wanted to get an idea of that. But the reason I say this because there's a lot of different ways about going about this. I know we spoke very briefly about it a couple weeks ago about how we can get you guys into the program and kind of different options for marketing in regards to getting the gold tier, right? So I mean, we could be creative on both ends. So I mean, it's always great to involve us in those conversations. Once you guys get some of these customer information, and I guess we can call it, let's get some more visibility into that. Great to at least get some of the initial conversations going, because myself and Ryan can at least give some feedback into, hey, how have other customers or partners in the past done this? Because it's not something that happens it's something that happens on a consistent basis, right? Where we have partners that are converting to the full revenue model to gain benefits from the entire partnership, and whether that's getting into the program and converting them slowly over time, or converting them throughout one process, or you just kind of be able to brainstorm what's going to be the best situation for your end from a cash flow perspective, as well as to what's going to be the most efficient way to get you guys in goal too, right? So there's different ways to go about doing that, and I just want to make sure that we give you enough options to take back to Kathleen or Oni, whoever it may be, instead of having I guess one thought process in mind of how we need to get converted, right? So there's options out there. I just think it's better to hop on those initial phone calls before it gets prolonged, right?
Okay, so let me run my reports, and maybe when are you going to be out of town, Rob?
Emily and myself will be out from Wednesday onward of next week.
Wednesday until next Thursday.
Yeah. So we can get in a call early next week. Monday or Tuesday would be great. And then, of course, if anyone's in
Monday
Toronto,
or Tuesday of next week, you can do next week.
Yeah. Yes. Monday, Tuesday will work.
Okay. All right. Let me look at Kathleen's calendar, and also Mike and I can speak with Shane, who's our CTO, to determine technological next steps, and I guess we can go from there. Does that sound okay? Obviously, I know I looked at the partner program, like the guide that you sent over to me, but I understand that there's a lot of there's a lot of gray area in here. So
yeah, and it's also like just any feedback in general, right? Like I mentioned, a partnership, a successful partnership or a meaningful partnership means a lot more to, or is different for every partner, right? So understanding what you guys are ranking in priority of what you want from the program, and as well as what we can tell you from past experiences of what it's going to help you out for the event management space in general, right? Whatever it may be, let's figure that out, right? So we're on the same page.
Okay. Sounds great.
Yeah, cool. So let me know if you have any questions in the meantime. But once we can get some times on your end, and it's great. I appreciate you guys putting together some information on the current customer base, and then I can loop in my manager Ryan, and then hopefully get the ball rolling for you guys.
All right. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you all for your time. It was great talking, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, Mike.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.